Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Rodriguez. I'm Aaron Smith, and I will be giving you an insight about the two articles that we're supposed to all read. The first one's called First Impressions, Science of Meeting People, and the second one is called Boss Say Pick Up the Phone. So last week, we all learned about Amy Cuddy and how she's famous for her research on the power poses. And of course, it's talking about how it helps you boost confidence and also how it helps you perform better. And that's due to the rise in your testosterone levels and the decrease in your cortisol levels. Well, recently she's had a new study, and that's in regards to how we form new impressions, how to form new impressions. And she, so when we meet people, we also evaluate two metrics, and that is confidence and trustworthiness. So as an individual, when we meet somebody else, we're making not just one single impression, we're also making two impressions. And with that, we're kind of judging the person as to whether they're warm and whether they're trustworthy. And also, this is something that could also help you, knowing these facts, it could also help you perform better when making a first impression. Sorry, guys. So this interest of her interest of wanting to know how we form first impressions first began when she learned about social psychologists that have been observing racism and also what drives it. And that's always been on ever since the end of the World War II. And then they had this classic motto that was called love for the in-group and hate for the out-group. As you can see, it really didn't work when it came to predicting discrimination, only because it was biased. It was not biased, more vague, because it would only portray positive and negative feelings towards another group or another person, and that's not how things work. And there's more reasons as to why you have these negative and positive feelings. Her research group was really interested in predicting discrimination. Persons universally sort groups in a 2x2 matrix, which results in most groups being high on one trait and low on the second trait. Cuddy did do a preliminary study when she asked people to freely list all the groups in their society. After going into 24 different cultures, she was able to manage to find that there's about 15 to 20 groups within their societies. Some of them which were different, and they varied from gender, race, and it also had religion and profession and many other ones. Oh, sorry, it's this one. This also gave Cuddy an insight in predicting the risk of genocide. If and when the economy is threatened, their main focus is the high status minority group, and they're the ones who are targeted for genocide. And these are the groups that they're seen as highly competent. And even though they're hated, they're also respected.
What groups were you talking about?
The groups that were there when it comes to genocide, choosing genocide, there are certain groups, like they're the ones that they focused on in the past were like the Jews in Germany, and also I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, the Tsitsini from Rwanda, and also the Cambodians, the educated ones from Cambodians. But sorry, that's not on here. Should have been on here. But she also believes that certain actions occur on a personal level, Overall, we want to see the other person as trustworthy, but we want them to see us as competent and strong. So being dominant in when making a first impression has its effects only because it can cause for you to have inaccurate information from the other person, because they can shut down, they can become defensive, they can become threatened, or they can even out-alpha you. She also believes that if you're trusting, if you project that trust, people are most likely to trust you. There are many things that one can convey to ensure that they gain that trust from the other person by letting them be the first ones to speak or to have the floor. Most mistakes are done by assuming that you're the one who's supposed to take the lead and take the floor and be the first one to speak, which in reality all it does is create that warmth and welcoming to diminish. Even allowing the other person to say something personal about themselves, it also establishes that trust. And small talk can also help with that. All right, I'm going to pass it to Erin, and she's going to talk about boss safe feedback. I'll take it the phone.
Okay,
There you go.
so I'm going to talk about the article, Bosses Say Pick Up the Phone. So as many of you know, as generations get younger and younger and enter the workforce, we tend to live in a very text-based world. People are used to emailing, texting their bosses, and so it's just kind of time to get back to the basics. Bosses say they kind of prefer more traditional style of communication, and it's just also a personal thing. If you are only reading a text, sometimes it can be misconstrued, misinterpreted, and so kind of helps just to build personal relationships within your workplace whenever you get one-on-one with somebody or talking to them on the phone. So it also is just kind of annoying, like if someone's not gonna talk to you over the phone, then it almost seems like they're hiding something sometimes. Okay, so sometimes words matter more than others. If you are in a sales-based position or you're in a position where you're interfacing with the public on a day-to-day basis, you're going to need to talk to people more. You're going to have to be comfortable with getting on the phone and having a conversation. And so sometimes it just depends on what position you're in the workplace. But it's just it's important anyways. And so older generations versus the younger generations obviously have difference in opinion as well, because older people are more traditional. So there's also some advantages of using the phone compared to email or text. Whenever you're texting or emailing back and forth with somebody, kind of like this meme right here, I think you misinterpreted the tone of my text message. A lot of times, and I deal with this a lot at work. My boss he'll ask me a question, and I think, did he mean it this way or did he mean it that way? Because if I say it like this, then it means one thing compared to if I say it this other way. So sometimes it's just being able to read the pause in someone's tone. If they say something and then they take a slight pause and then they, finish on with their sentence, it could be taken in a completely different context. So these are just some of the advantages that we have of picking up the phone. And some people are just completely freaked out of getting on the phone. I work with somebody that he only wants to communicate with our customers over email because, he's like, kind of in the restaurant type industry, and he's dealing with restaurant managers, and he's like, I'm afraid that I'm going to annoy them. I'm going to bother them in some way. And then he's also scared of just saying the wrong thing, if I say this, then it might upset them or things like that, and just not really knowing what to say. Some people just get completely freaked out. And then you're also scared that you get stuck on the phone with someone that's really long-winded. If I pick up the phone and I call my dad, I know I'm going to be on the phone for 3 hours because he's not going to shut up. So that's another aspect of that.
Would one of you read the quiz questions?
Sure.
Out loud.
So the first question is, anybody suggests When you try the power pose, your blank increases and your blank decreases. The second one is bosses tend to prefer blank skills. And number 3 is research shows when you divide people into 4 quadrants, they predict 4 unique blank and 4 unique blank blank. Number 4, what effect does being dominant have on first impressions? And number 5, what are the advantages of using a phone?